hand and let me know you can hear me and see me. That would be wonderful. We are going to be talking about some of the new lumber features that we've added and some enhancements and such. And it looks like, Derek, thank you very much for the hand up. Looks like you can hear me, so let's go ahead and get started. This isn't going to take very long today, and I have Chad assisting me. So if you have any questions, feel free to text them in, and Chad can address them. And if not, we'll bring the question up at the end of the presentation. This shouldn't be that long today, maybe 15-minute presentation tops. And yeah, so let's get started. Go ahead and Chad, if you want to hit the record button.
Yes,
so we do record these. Thank you, Chad. So we do record these for later viewing, and you'll see that in the Paladin Help screen. There's Paladin webinars, and that takes you directly to all the webinars that we've done in the past. There's probably close to 50 of them out there. Lots to rummage through. We're actually changing that a bit to make it easier to search through the webinars. So again, I'm Charles Owen with Paladin. Been with the company 8-9 years now. I manage business alliances for the company. And today's topic is, well, the title is Would You Believe, kind of a play on words there, new lumber features. We've added some very significant features in this update, and I'm really excited to show them to you today. These are features, primarily it's a lumber and building material board foot calculations that are built into the system. So the goal of these webinars is to help you become better users, better trained on Paladin. And yeah, so we're just going to go ahead and get started with slide 1. All right, so there's a couple of features here we're going to talk about. First one's Profit Analyst. You probably heard about it if you're in this webinar. I've talked about it on numerous occasions, and I've been talking about it for probably the last 6 months or so. It's only been in the system recently in the last couple of updates, but it's a very powerful feature. I do want to kind of go over that again. Special order enhancements, there's some significant special order enhancements into the system, primarily enabling for the system to be able to process deposits, which was a separate transaction before. We'll talk about that. Footage calculator enhancements, if you use it, if you don't, I'll show you what it is, and you might find a way to leverage that tool. And minimum margin enhancements. So, we can set minimum margins across the board, but we've got other ways to set minimum margin as well, so you can tailor it to your needs. And then, of course, the 1,000 board foot cost wizard, which we'll talk about. Profit Analyst. So first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to take you through a few slides, then I'll bring up the Paladin system, and we'll kind of go into what you need to do. This shows a image, the invoice and quote screen. When you're at the invoice and quote screen, you can bring up or activate the Profit Analyst if you have the proper credentials. It does need to be set up under the Employees tab. So you can see here to call up the Profit Analyst, you can either go to that Edit on the very top of the screen next to File, and under Edit you'll find Profit Analyst, as well as Footage Calculator. So we've added both of those to that drop down. And or you can use a hotkey. Alt-A brings up the Profit Analyst, and then Escape sends it back, or hit the cancel button with the mouse. Okay. To set it up, again, you need to go into File Setup, click on the Employee tab, and check that item that says Profit Analyst at the very bottom of the permissions list. It does not come default. It must be activated. And you can see in that very bottom right-hand corner of the image, it says Save ACH Data and Profit Analyst. So that's kind of the tail end of the permissions and employee access rights. And so you check that bottom one that says Profit Analyst. That will activate it. And you want to be careful with this. I wouldn't activate it for the cashiers. It is a very powerful feature. You would want to give it to, obviously, yourself as the owner and or key managers in the system, in the store. All right. Second one, special order enhancements. So this one has really been an invaluable feature. So before, special orders does a number of different things. And when you go into special order and you create a special order item in invoicing, it fires off several triggers down the line. It'll create an inventory item if you're typing in a new item. It'll earmark it as never to be ordered, and it will also earmark it on hold for a particular customer. It will also create a pending purchase order, so you can fire off the purchase order directly after saving the special order. And it also ties that particular special order to that particular customer, and you can actually add new customers during the invoicing process if that customer has never been added to your system. I'll actually add them as a customer, a non-charge account customer. And if you have the permissions, proper permissions, it won't allow you to add a credit line when you add that customer at invoicing. So those are the current things that the special order feature does for you automatically. So we added another one. So before, when you had special orders, you would have to go back into the invoicing, pull up that customer, do a received on account to take a deposit. Now you can go in and set this up ahead of time. So if you go to File, and then under File you go to Company, you'll see the special order feature on the left-hand side, and this is the window on the left of the screen where it says special orders. And then the very bottom one, you can allow special orders to create customers, and below that you have special order default deposit. So you can set it up to actually prompt you for a deposit or not. And if you say 25%, it's automatically going to put in 25%. You say OK, and basically it takes you right through the checkout process. The next step is take money, say go, you're done. And you've been able to now combine the taking of the deposit in with the creation of the special order. All right, so that's helpful. What's the next feature? Footage calculator. So if you've used this product or this feature to bring up the footage calculator, normally you do a Control K, and that brings up the footage calculator. Now you can actually use that edit button at the very top of the screen in the Paladin application, and you can call up that the footage calculator. In addition, pardon me, what you can do is you now can create the pieces, the number of pieces, and the feet and the inches, and save it as a stored quote. Then, if you like, go back and tweak it. You can edit that actual footage calculator. Prior to this update, you were unable to do that. Now you can actually make changes and edits to that existing footage calculator. And as you know, when you do this function, on the very bottom on the instruction line, it tells you exactly the sizes and the number of pieces in the notes field. All right, so those are the features there. The next one is minimum margins. So minimum margins, there's a number of areas when you create sales, when you do prompt payment discounts. There are different areas where you can ask the system to respect minimum margin. And that's very important to maintain profitability, obviously. And previously to this update, prior to this update, you had to set a minimum margin across the board. Now we have a very specific margin you can set per department. So if some departments like building materials are down there around, hovering at the 17 to 22% range, you can set a minimum margin just for those products. And for example, hardware, plumbing, paint, you can set different minimum margins, and then if those items happen to fall into those categories, the minimum margin changes. So the minimum margin is respected, again, when you're doing prompt payment discounts, when you're doing sales and pricing plans, but as well as when you're changing the prices right during the invoicing process. You can either manually override the prices, and it will respect the minimum margin, or recently added, you can press the F4, select and highlight those items that you want to discount, select the F4 button, which is the discount button, and put a percentage in. And now you can put a percentage of, we'll discount as much as we can, put 99% discount. Well, it's going to stop at the minimum margin and not go below that. So again, your margins need to be protected to maintain profitability. In addition to the minimum margin field that we added to the departments, we also added a way to export the departments into an Excel spreadsheet. So some of these back office functions like sale lists and location codes and departments and classes and that sort of thing, normally to get a copy of those, you go into Excel and you activate the ODBC connector and you just pull out the fields you want. It's real simple to do. It's very, doesn't take any time whatsoever if you know how to do it. By the way, there's a webinar on that. It's called the ODBC using Excel. But now what we've added is an export button. So you can just hit this export button, and now all the departments can fall right into an Excel spreadsheet for you. So now you can use that listing for whatever reason. All right. We've also added that to the employee tab as well. So you'll notice in the employee tab, there's also an export button there too. And I imagine we'll be adding them to some of the other back office functions as well. All right, to continue, last but not least, the MBF cost wizards. All right, so what is this? Well, we've had a request for a while now that these lumber yards that are buying product from the mills can only buy it via 1,000 board foot. So prior, you had to bring out the calculator and put in your multiplier to figure out what the cost per stick is based on the cost per 1,000 board foot. No longer. That's all automated. As a matter of fact, it is automated to the nth degree. You don't have to do anything but know the size, the dimensions of the timber that you're selling. It will automatically create the algorithm and the calculations. And now during the PO process, when you're receiving a PO, all you need to do is put number of pieces and the 1,000 board foot cost, and voila, all of your individual each prices and costs will appear. It will maintain, just like it did before, 3 different costs and 2 different percentages, the cost being your average, your market, and your last cost, the cost per stick being the same, your average, your market, and your last cost. And then also on the sales price itself, you can have it determine the price, either put in the retail price or set a reference margin that will respect that reference margin. Thereby, if you change the receiving PO, it will respect that reference margin and change the retail price accordingly. So there's 2 different pricing methods in our system, as you know, at a minimum. One is you can have a fixed retail cost or price, and the other is you can have a fixed retail margin. And based on your receiving act and event, it can change the retail price. And also, it depends on how things are set up in your company tab as well. All right, so the presentation that you're looking at here will be available as this webinar will on the Paladin pointofsale.com/webinars plural site, or in your application at the very top under Help, you'll see Paladin Webinars. That's where you'll see a copy of this webinar. And then there are several features or several articles that you'll find in the knowledge base, which I've listed several of them here, where you can go in and find out more information about special orders, about profit analyst, about minimum margins, and that sort of thing. So we've got articles in knowledge base on this as well, kind of the self-help tools. And so let me just spend a couple of minutes here. I'm going to switch over, if you don't mind, to the Paladin point-of-sale system. Now, as you know, when you first go into Paladin, you'll see, I'm going to turn my head slightly here because I'm looking at another monitor, but you've got your features and fixes that pops up on the screen. If you ever want to look up a specific feature, up in the top, you can put in a search, whatever your search criteria is, Oracle, ACE, Cardinal, whatever you want to do, or you can type in a feature like lumber, and it will give you all of the items that it finds that word in. So that's another way to find more information about what you're what you're wanting information on. So in Paladin, just to show you real quick, under File, Setup, I'll show you under the Company tab. So you can see on here on the left-hand side of this Company tab, you have different headers over there, different titles, and you can see special orders. Here's where we can go in and set our default special order. I don't have one set up right now, but nonetheless, you can change it when it comes up. If you decide you didn't want to take a deposit, that's fine. You can just put 0 in there. Or if it came up with a deposit, something ridiculous like $493.78, you can say, well, let's just round it up to 500. You can make that change. In addition, under the invoice section, and depending on what version of the software you have, this invoice tab may be actually under company tab, just like special orders, but we've broken it out in the newer version, pardon me. And here you have a number of different settings that you can set, and the ones on the bottom I talked about are the F4, discount respecting minimum margin. If I look at the department tab, you can see that I can set up a different minimum margin for each department if I wish, right? Or not. Now, if you don't wish to put a minimum margin in, don't, because it will automatically just default to the standard minimum margin, which you have a whole separate tab for, which we go to that minimum margin screen. Here's the across the board minimum margin is 40%, but that may not be applicable for all items. So as you can see on paint, when I was back in that department, on paint, I set up the minimum margin to 18%. So this is optional. You don't have to do this. You can just stick with maintain your minimum margin across the board, or you can get very specific. Okay, and then under the employee tab, we talked about setting up permissions to have access to Profit Analyst. This one does not. You would just check the box like so, and you're ready to go. Just save it, and now that person has access to the Profit Analyst. To invoke some of those features, again, at checkout, if I have an item in here, and I'll just put an item like, lumber 2, for example, 2x4x8 treated, and I can put other items in here as well. Now, if I highlight any of these items and I invoke the Profit Analyst, I can do that by either holding down the Alt and pressing A, and it pops up the Profit Analyst. Here I can see the current line I'm at. I have a profit of 91 cents with a margin 83.5, not bad. If I scoot up either the arrow keys or the mouse or the touch screen, move up to the next item, it shows me that current line, but it's also showing me the overall invoice. A very powerful feature to help you with your quoting. Very particularly useful for lumber and building material stores. Okay, you can also go to Edit and bring up Profit Analyst that way. And then also, if you have an item like molding, for example, and you want to invoke the footage calculator, you just do Control-K, or over here I can do Edit Footage Calculator. Either way it comes up. Now I say I have two 10-footers, I've got 2 12-footers, and I've got 3 at 8 feet, and boom, I'm done. It calculates out there's 68 feet, 46 cents a foot. We got, 31.28. So these are the different features that we had talked about. And when it comes to inventory, if you've got an item like, let's do a lumber and building material item. I'm going to do one that hasn't been set up yet. So here we have 2x4x12. It's set up per piece. Calculations done outside of Paladin, the board foot. But if we want to bring this one in and manage it by 1,000 board foot, you just go to the cost per, and you can either do order multiples, 1,000 board foot, square foot, or ton. And it just does it for you automatically. So let's go ahead and select 1,000 board foot. And now it's just asking me my thickness. It's 2x4x12. And it tells me my calculator, my item I need to, or my algorithm basically. And now it's figuring out that the cost per 1,000 board foot is 511. It translates to 409 per stick, and still selling for $7.99 a stick. All right, we can take another item. This is a 2x4x16. again, 2 by 4 by 16. Here's our calculator number for that, our multiplier, and now it's set up this way. So now if we go into our purchase order and we actually want to order an item, it'll give us the 1,000 board foot cost, and we can just put in, I've got 120 boards, and my cost per board foot is now 525. It's gone up tremendously, and once I save this and send this order off, it's going to make that change in Paladin in the inventory section under pricing, reflecting the new cost. All right, that's all I have for you. Any questions? You can send your questions in now, or I can unmute you if you wish. If you want to raise your hand, I will be more than happy to unmute you. If you have any questions, it's okay. Do we have any questions coming across the text chat?
Not at this time.
All right. Well, I'll give you guys another few seconds here to raise your hand or send a question in.
I think you just explained everything so perfectly, Charles, that, you know, everyone is on board.
That, or they're just really unimpressed. I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of this. Next week, we have it listed that Watch Your Total Protection is going to join us, but they've unfortunately ran into an issue, and they won't be able to join us until more like mid-May. They were going to do a presentation on stop loss. We will be coming up with a new presentation for next week. We're always going to be here at 9 o'clock on Tuesday. And again, thank you all so much for your time. I don't see any questions or any hands, so I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you.